Where's the goddamn medic? Oh shit! Oh, that is a lot of collies. Hi troops, I saw a bear here, and today I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. Over the past week, you may have seen me posting various times about the Stop Killing Games initiative. This is a European citizens initiative, and the goal is to, as the name suggests, stop killing games. It's a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games that they have sold to customers. The practice is a form of planned obsolescence and is not only detrimental to customers, but it makes preservation for games pretty much impossible. I would highly encourage you, if you're not aware of it, to go look at the website stopkillinggames.com and read more about it for yourself. And if you're a citizen of the EU, which many players at Foxhole are, you should go and sign this initiative. It's already passed the 1 million signatures it needs, but the more signatures we can get on, the better our chances will be, since some of the signatures will undoubtedly be invalidated either because non-EU citizens have accidentally signed it, or a variety of other reasons. And while so much has been said about the initiative over the past couple of weeks, I wanted to redirect my video's focus on the initiative and how it pertains to Foxhole. Of course, Foxhole's a multiplayer MMO where players from all over the world fight on two factions for control of a continent during a conflict. The game, by nature, has to be online at all times, and more specifically, each region in Foxhole is a different server that are all interlaced together to form this giant open world that we all play on. And so the question remains, and it's one that I've increasingly found myself asking, although never wanting to answer myself, is what happens to Foxhole in the end? Because at some point, it will become unfeasible for the developers, Siege Camp, to maintain the Foxhole servers and keep this interlaced server network running. I have no idea how far in the future that will be, but what happens then? So I decided, why not ask the developers and see what they think? I sent a message off to Markfoot on the Siege Camp dev team, what they thought of the European Citizens Initiative, Stop Killing Games, and what the plans for Foxhole are. How would they consider sunsetting the game, or what will happen to it in the end? And I got a response that I was given permission to share. Quote, "Hey Theo, this sounds like a really cool endeavor." That's me, by the way. Since it's more or less an MMO now, Foxhole's online infrastructure has grown to be a pretty complex machine that requires dozens of servers and various cloud services to operate. Unlike a more standard shooter like Squad or Hell Let Loose, which is largely just a server binary, it actually requires an entire live ops team at Siege Camp to operate and maintain it. So yeah, Foxhole's definitely a more complicated game than your standard online multiplayer shooter. Fair enough. Continuing, quote, "That said, if the code were to eventually be open sourced, it is theoretically possible for a dedicated group to run their own shard, ignoring the cost of renting servers and paying for cloud services." And I had to redact a section, but essentially this redacted section comes down to, we think it's a cool idea. Siege Camp intends to work on Foxhole for the foreseeable future. Okay, so our answer for the time being is basically, there's no dedicated plan on how to sunset Foxhole. They're determined to keep working on Foxhole for the foreseeable future, but he did essentially give us a vague blueprint for what the community would need to do in order to keep Foxhole running, at least in its current state. Which, fair enough. Going forward, I would still love to see Siege Camp actually have a sunsetting plan for Foxhole, rather than just vague visions of one, but hey, at this point, having played the game since 2014, oh my god, it's almost been 10 years, I trust them that they are going to keep working on the game for some time yet. Besides, Airborne is right around the corner, so no time to give up now, right? Okay, well now we have our answer and that's it, right? Well, not quite. I still want to have a discussion about this. How can Siege Camp sunset Foxhole? Now, disclaimer for this section, I'm not a game developer. I have no idea how possible, likely, or easy it would be to implement any of the solutions I'm talking about. The first general idea would just be to, as they say, full open source code the game. Give us all of the implements, all of the tools that we would need to run the servers ourselves, and let us figure it out. That would arguably be the best thing, although the problem with open sourcing is I don't know how much crucial infrastructure they would have to give up. Infrastructure that may or may not pertain to Anvil Empires, so full open sourcing the game might be detrimental to their future projects depending on how much of that source code they use. We wouldn't want Anvil Empires to be full of hackers just because we want Foxhole to stay alive, right? And if there are issues pertaining to that, that's fair enough. The second thing I see them doing is releasing some sort of design document for the community to be able to recreate the infrastructure we need to keep Foxhole servers running or some version of them online. That's a little bit more doable, although again, it would take the developers some effort and time to be able to do that. And of course, that will be a cost completely onto themselves and to really no benefit other than word of mouth, which, to be fair, is a good thing, but not always something that's going to keep the lights on in the studio. So again, this will be a big cost to developers, but number 3, which I'm calling 3A, is somehow a conversion to a single-player game. Now, Foxhole's obviously a multiplayer game where all of the players work together to create a war machine, basically. But there was, a while ago, on one of the dev streams, they mentioned how they were using basically fake artificial players in order to test their servers and server capacity. While obviously it would be impossible to coordinate NPCs and to fill the role of players in Foxhole, it might make for a fun shooting gallery experience. The other more likely one was what I'm calling 3B, a conversion to a single player but with peer-to-peer matchmaking. Basically, the game would just be an empty map unless you connect with other players. That would be an easier setup. However, being able to get thousands of players to peer-to-peer connect to each other would probably be impossible, just based on internet standards. That being said, I do see a possibility in players running essentially dedicated multiplayer matches using single Foxhole maps as an individual server. So the cost of renting a server and cloud servicing would be far, far lower. It wouldn't be the full Foxhole experience, at least on a open world-wide scale, but I mean, that's how Foxhole got its start, right? If you go back and look at my archival footage from years and years ago, Foxhole World Conquest used to just be one map at a time. Devs would cycle between maps to change things up and to test out individual map features, but yeah, we used to fight on individual maps all the time, and we still had great fun. It's definitely not impossible for the community to scale down in size and still be able to do some logistics and resource mining whilst also fighting on a front line. Now, I'll have to tell Microsoft to avert their eyes, but some of you may remember back in the day, before the Halo Master Chief Collection came out on PC, there was a game that apparently was for some reason slated only for Russia, and then was subsequently cancelled, but it was called Halo Online. Now, Microsoft definitely put the kibosh on that and tried to get Twitch streamers and YouTube streamers to stop playing it, and they were pretty successful at that. But you can still download those files and play a peer-to-peer matchmaking Halo game. And you can still customize it far more than you can the Master Chief Collection. And while the population numbers are pretty small, they're still there. You can still find people playing matches every now and again. And the nice thing about it, because it's peer-to-peer, it'll never be taken away. This version of Halo, if you want to call it that, will never truly go offline. The fourth option is just a complete conversion to single player, no NPCs, no nothing, just you and the Foxhole map. It would be sad, it would be lonely, but hey, at least if you're a lore hunter, you could still do something in it. And it would be a nice museum to the game, if a sad one at that. At least this way you could still use the game map to practice your Foxhole GeoGuessr. And yes, Foxhole Guesser is a thing. FoxholeGuesser.com. Go play it, it's a lot of fun, especially when you're waiting at the map borders. The fifth and last option I see is nothing.
So you get nothing!
There's no laws in place about publishers or developers just forcing a game to close down and not returning anything to the players. Hence why Stop Killing Games is a really important movement. Of course, it wouldn't apply to games retroactively, so Foxhole wouldn't be affected if any laws were passed in that case. However, going forward, their future games might be. But yeah, there's no legal requirement for Siege Camp to do anything about it. Obviously, Siege Camp already expressed that they would like to do something in the future, but doing nothing is still on the table. So just like Stop Killing Games, I wanted to start a discussion for Foxhole specifically about what does the future for Foxhole look like? What happens when the guns go silent? What happens when there's not enough soldiers to maintain the front line? What happens then? So let me know, and by extension, let the developers know. What kind of sunsetting would you like to see? What do you think is realistically possible for Foxhole? And what other possibilities for sunsetting the game are there? Let's start talking about this now. Let's plan for a future.
Think of it this way, from one unbothered to another. I would rather be a signature on a petition than be a plaintiff or a victim.
And as always, good luck, keep your heads down, stay in your foxholes. Bear, out.